All right, here we are back again in Alaska, episode 2 of Touring Alaska. We are here at Fairbanks. We landed here yesterday in a Saab 340 from Anchorage. Now we are starting to get into the nitty gritty. We are headed over to Unalakleet, Alaska, which is west of our location. And Unalakleet, I've chose that airport because, again, I referenced a show before called Flying Wild Alaska, which I used to watch, let's say back in 2012, 2013, something like that. You can probably YouTube it or look it up. And so what that was special about that is that it was a family-owned little small airline business where they basically fly supplies and passengers to the small rural towns in Alaska that don't have any outside road access. So basically, if it's on a waterway during the summer months, they can get supplies by boat. But in the winter, or more or less in the summer, because the winter there's treacherous conditions to fly into. So more when it's available for aircraft to fly, or I should say the climate allows aircraft to fly. They fly into these small little towns and they deliver stuff. So that's what we're gonna do. Anyway, no more stumbling over words. Let's stumble over the aircraft and get it in the air. And hopefully we have a safe flight. We're going to be on the VATSIM network. I still got to log on to the VATSIM network right now, which I'll do right now as a matter of fact. And we'll get going. I don't anticipate any traffic. We're going to kind of be on our own here in the final frontier, if you will. Let me pull up my VATSIM here. In the meantime, just rock your head to the beat or whatever the case may be. All right. So, let's see here. All right, just to give you guys a quick snapshot of what I'm doing here. So I just put in our departure airport, which is Fairbanks. We're going to the destination airport, which is Unalakleet. Here's our alternate departure time is 0015. Keep in mind, I've altered the time in the simulator to reflect so we can see some daylight. So essentially right now it's at dawn. Sun should be coming up here shortly. Time en route, as I said, is an hour and 28 minutes. We have 4 hours and 22 minutes of fuel on board. Cruise speed, we'll see if the indicated airspeed ever even gets to 310, or I'm sorry, the true airspeed of 310. Cruising altitude is at flight level 180, and Minto Victor 488 airway, and then Edmond is the last fix. So one entry fix to the airway. So basically we're flying an airway, if you will. Enter it at Minto, we exit at Edmond, and then we're direct to the field. So that's super easy. So let's click File Flight Plan, and that flight plan essentially now has been filed. So no need to worry there. Now we can go ahead and jump on board. And you guys, here's one thing. Never say never say never. As we log on, there is literally an aircraft right here in the air in Alaska. So as rural and remote, well, Fairbanks isn't really rural, but it is, in Alaska. And I wouldn't think I would see anybody here. And there you go. So it's a good thing that we're not taking any of that for granted. All right. So let's see if we can remember exactly what to do here, and so that we can get out of here. I fly multiple aircraft, so sometimes I forget what to do in one. So let's struggle through this together, but I think we'll be all right here. I enjoy flying this aircraft, and I'm going to use it today for sure because we need to have some lower speeds. The runways aren't that long at all. I think the longest runway in the next couple flights that we're landing on is this runway at Unalakleet, which is about 5,000 something feet. We'll get into that. You know me, I'm gonna get everything dialed in to the last specific, so that we can get to where we need to go safely with these virtual passengers. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get rid of this flight yoke for now. We'll put it back on when we get airborne, if I remember. And we are simply going to come down here. Normally you'll see the battery right here automatically, but in this case we don't, so we have to open it up, and we're doing a battery start today. So we are most certainly going to be some lighting issues there. We are most certainly going to be doing what we need to do in order to excuse me, get where we need to go. So we're doing a battery start. So essentially, let's get the aircraft up and rolling. Let's make sure this parking brake is out. Okay, it is. So let's pull it back out. So it's out. Everything is off. So let's go ahead and get that battery up. But I'm going to move pretty quick so we don't lose too much battery power. So before we do that, let's get a good visual of everything. And I know it's a little dark in here right now, so I'm sorry for that, but we'll change that here in a second. And we just want to check and make sure everything's up. Flaps are up and gear handle is down. And of course we have our fuel cutoff right here. Now we can get these pulled back. We don't need these all the way up for start. So let's bring these down. And then of course these are going to be our two levers that we use. If you come over, and go again, it's a little dark, they look like one, but there's literally two. We'll use these to come up once we get the engine started and low idle and all that stuff. So let's make this happen and get it to where we can get out of here fairly quick. So we're gonna go battery up. So the battery is on. We'll go ahead and turn on that avionics master power. So now we are going to have minimal power on the aircraft, so we're not expecting a whole lot right now. So we can initialize this. All right, now that's going to be initialized. Now before we do anything else, we need to let other folks know that we are getting ready to start an aircraft. So in order to do that, we need to go ahead and put on our nav light, which is automatically on. Let's just click it back on again. And then of course we want our beacon on, which is always on too. So there we go, those two are back on. Now essentially what we have to do is we have to come over here and we're gonna arm the ignition. We're gonna start the right engine first, and up we go. All right, we do have rotation on that turbine. Now we have to come here essentially and monitor and wait till it gets to about 20 on the turbine, and then we're going to come over here and we're going to grab this one and we're going to put it in low idle. All right, we're going to let it stable out there for a second. It looks stable. Now in order for everything to function correctly, we have to essentially throw it in high idle now. And it looks stable in high idle. So now what we can do is we need to come down here and we need to turn the right generator on. We're going to go up to reset. All right, now we need to turn our inverter on. All right, and then essentially we can turn the ignition off now. Now that the ignition off, that's going to come on, allowing additional power there. So now we've got some juice coming into the aircraft. We're still not going to turn this on yet, but you can see the other garments coming on because now power is being fed into the aircraft. So we'll go ahead and initialize this. And it's good to see that we've got some light into the aircraft because it was pretty dark. So now we're also going to come up here. We want to look at our DC load, which is our direct current coming from our battery charging things. And of course we're using AC volts for all of the electronics and things of that nature. We'll come do an up top check in a little bit. For the time being, let's go ahead and get number 2 on so we can get out of here, folks. Alright, so now we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to arm this ignition and essentially do the same sequence. See, we've got a good rotation here. Let's check for that 20% on the turbine. Alright, over here we go now. Let's get this into low idle. Alright. Coming up nicely, we'll let it balance out. It should go right down to like 5 something here on the torque, 5.1 or so. Steadily dropping, 5.4. Okay, that's close enough. That's where we're gonna be stable at right now. And of course, like the other engine, in the high idle. Alright, that engine is in high idle. Right now there may be some more significant difference because we're not going to prop sync it until we're in the air. So they're both full idle. Just going to double check they're both full forward, and they are both full forward. Now we can come over here and we can turn this ignition off. We can most certainly bring this generator up all the way up to reset. And of course now turn that inverter on. We have everything else here on that we need. All the inverters are on. The ignitions will stay armed during the duration of our flight. We got avionics master power on, which is awesome. And everything here is looking good. We're not going to worry about any, well, anti-ice is already on, but we're not going to worry about that. Once we get out of here, we'll worry about some of this other stuff like the pitot heats and all that stuff. But in the meantime, we can disregard this panel for a little bit. And let's come on down here and get the rest of our avionics on. So we're going to do a up on this switch, of course. Now this is going to come to life here in a second. You'll see it light up nice and slowly as it comes in, and then it will get itself situated where it reads correctly. And then of course over here we are going to have to worry about bleeds, and it might be easier to do it from the first officer side, which that's also me. So let's come over here and look at our bleeds. Alright, what do we got going on here? We see we got left valve, bleed valves open right. Let's see, let's open our bleeds up. And we got a low flow there, test warning, cabin temperature. Let's put it to auto basically. Let's put it there. And we're gonna want to put this to auto. Perfect. Alright, let's get back onto the captain's side, and now we see we have our aircraft alive. Now one thing we want to do before we mess with anything else, let's get the bearing course indicator and the heading where it should be. So first of all, we need to come over here and actually come to the map so that we can turn our course direction indicator on, and then down here of course we have to select I believe it's this button here. Okay, that's VOR2. That's not what we want. We want to hit that button one more time. Let's see. It's that button there. Okay, now it says FMS, but it's in red, so we still got a problem there. So we still need to make sure. And maybe it's saying that because we don't have any course put in right now. Let's see. GPS. So they're both of these are on GPS, so maybe once we put in our course and get a flight plan, this should change. We need to make sure this changes over to green, or else we're not. There's something else we'll have to do in order to make that happen. But it is on FMS 1, and of course, let's turn our comms on. All right, comms are on. Let's make sure we're on the Unicom frequency, which we're not. We need to change that to 122.8. Enter. Switch that over. Now we have Unicom available, just in case any other pilots end up being here. Now the only thing we have left on here really is auto feather, which we're not going to worry about that. So at this point, let's get our flight plan in here, folks. Okay, so we already know that we're here and we're not doing anything special for a departure. Now I'm just simply going to come up here and put in our flight plan. First one is Minto, and from Minto we're going to do an airway, and that airway, as we saw before, is Victor 488, and we're getting out at Edmund. So we'll load that. And then we're going to go direct to Unalakleet. Perfect. So now we've got our little flight plan in there. Should be reflecting on the map. let's go ahead and check over here. And now what you guys notice is that it turned to green. So now our aircraft's navigation equipment is set up, and it's going to be reading the information from the GTN 750 or the GPS. So now we're all good to go following there. This will be our heading bug. We'll square up the heading bug once we get ready to taxi, and then we'll orientate ourselves and figure out where we are going to depart from. In the meantime, let me pull in the weather for Fairbanks here. We'll pull that down in here. All right, let's make this happen. Okay, so we're not doing too bad. We're actually going to look at the weather for both locations, especially since we need to basically worry about VFR conditions. There is a RNAV and a localizer for Unalakleet, but that's still, I want VFR conditions. So right now we're doing good here. This is Fairbanks history here, and so it's VFR. Winds are calm right now. We've got some scattered clouds at 7,000 feet, broken between 17,000 and 11,000 feet. We've got 10 miles of visibility. The altimeter is 29er 49er. So let me get this out of here and put that altimeter in here before I forget. 29er 49er. All right, and then we also have to remember we are going to be going up to 18,000 feet. There we go. So now that's in the altitude alerter. And then let's go ahead and look at ourselves down here. So here we are at Fairbanks, and as you can see here, we're on the south ramp. Depending on which way the winds are coming out of, which this one says VFR calm, let's look at our route. So we're going to use that to our advantage, and I'm thinking, folks, we could take off runway. Well, either way it doesn't matter, because either way, if I take off this way, I got to do a right turn or a left turn. So let's look at the terrain really quick. So not really any terrain here, so whether we make a left or a right, it is okay. Let's just go into the charts and make sure that there's no specifics on which way we can turn on the runway, meaning what the pattern is. If it's a left pattern, right pattern, if we only can be north of the runways, north of the field, south of the field, that's what we're going to look at. So airport diagram, let's go to airport info. It's got avgas, that's the elevation, frequencies, preview. So we got that information. Nearest NOTAMs, let's go to this NOTAMs. And there's nothing here on the NOTAMs. So there's nothing special so far. So far that's good. So we can come back to the map. So I think what we'll do is we are going to I'm going to actually take off. I want to take off north is what I'm going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this taxiway here, which is Bravo, and then we'll cross runway 02 left and taxi Alpha for runway 02 left for immediate departure. Again with the turn to the northwest to pick up our heading. So as you can see here, that is exactly what we're going to do. So once we get lined up on the runway, we'll just go ahead and square up the heading. We'll assume it's about 20 degrees. Matter of fact, I can take care of that right now. So let's come with our different view here. And where's my heading bug? Is down here. So I believe I have a position for this. There we go. So this is our heading bug. And I'm manipulating something up here, so I'm just going to go to about 20. Pretty close. Close enough. Close enough. So we're gonna, continue that turn northwest. So I essentially could just do direct to Minto and then have the aircraft get there, and then it'll hit the airway too. So maybe we'll do that once we get up in the air. Instead of me vectoring it myself, I'll just do direct to Minto, because there's no traffic, no terrain there that is going to be let's see here. So if you want to look at the terrain feature, we're taking off, we end up taking off, let's see, we're going to be on runway 2 the way we're facing, so we're going to be coming this way essentially, and making our turn. So, and actually there is some terrain here for Minto, but that's before we get there. So right now where we're at is all good, and as you can see, there's more terrain going along the way. So I still think we're good there, and for us to get to Minto, we got 22 nautical miles, so that's more than enough to get direct Minto and then get some altitude, so we don't have that to worry about. The minimum safe altitude for the whole route is about 5,400 feet, and that's when we get closer to Unalakleet, so don't worry about that. I'm just trying to be thorough on the briefing so we don't miss anything, because as you know, everything here happens fast, and it's really not a super long route, but long enough. Okay, so let's go back to the map, and let's get ready for this taxi. Now what we're going to do essentially here is we want to get this GPS set up as well. So let's come up here, and I always set it up so that we can have one on the flight plan and one on the map. No sense in wasting it. But in order to get the information from here to here, I've got to basically do the same thing. So we'll just follow the same thing that we did on the other one, and then of course we're going to load that airway, and we know it was Victor 488 Edmund, exit, load, and then we go direct to Unalakleet. Now that's all squared away, so now essentially this will be the map side that we use, and you can see this one is, so usually I like my stuff to face north. Right now this one has got a weird orientation to it. It's essentially, it's tracking the way it goes, but I like mine to track for me to know where north is at all times as I'm seeing it. So I'm going to change that orientation here. So we're going to go to the menu, we'll go to the map setup, and right now it's track up, but we can do north up, and we'll go back and back. So now that's always north, so that I can orientate myself at all times, so that I know we're leaving here in the north, and then we're going to turn northwest. So excuse me, that's what we're going to do. So now on this side, essentially we can keep this side onto the flight plan. So when we go direct and all that, everything is all matched up, and then we'll just have to manipulate this to say direct to the point, and then it'll catch up once it gets to the point, and everything will line up nice and pretty. Okay, so that's all squared away. Now we are most certainly going to put our flaps down for takeoff. Let's go down here as well and make sure all of our yaw controls and rudder boosts and all that good stuff is on. Not missing anything there. We've got, I'm just checking all panels now, doing a little flow. We'll do altitude select, and we'll do an IAS climb, and we'll do heading on our initial orientating ourselves. Here's the autopilot, here's the yaw damper engaged, and then of course as we want to pitch up and pitch down, this will be for that if we're in the vertical speed mode. Let's see here, cabin altitude 1,000 feet, we'll just leave that where it's at. Let's see here, we are going to be aircraft altitude, let's see, we need to essentially, we're going to be at 18,000 feet, so right there. So these are your flight levels here. 15, 17, 19 is kind of all up in there. There's no way you're coming all the way up here, so these are the general flying altitude. So we are flying today at 18,000 feet, so we're going to put it right here at 17. So it starts basically 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and so on and so forth, as you see. So now the aircraft will pressurize itself accordingly. I think everything else looks good. Auto feather is off, so let's go ahead and get that armed, and let's also get our pitot keats on, and other than that, folks, we are ready to go. Again, we know what the taxi is. Let's go ahead and take a look here. We're basically just going to release the brake here and ease up until taxiway Bravo and go from there. So let's look at our, so we'll snake our way over here, right turn, see if we can snake right through these aircraft. It's kind of a tight little turn there. Perhaps we will go around this guy, I think would be the better bet. Follow this thing around is what we're gonna do, get around this guy. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and get our taxi light on. Get our recognition light, leave the landing light off. We don't need strobe, we don't need the tail flood. And then before we take off, we have to put our props, condition levers, our props levers all the way up. This is the condition, fuel condition, this is the props. That's what we'll do. So I am excited about that. I want to see if I can maybe turn some of these lights down so that we're not so bright. So we may just go up top really quick and do that. How about we do that, guys? Okay, so the panels, bright, instruments, avionics panel, overhead, side panel, co-pilot. I want to see if I can get the flood down. Direct co-pilot overhead, pilot overhead, flood. So let's get that to, there we go, turning those down a little bit. Let's see, turn our coffee on, FSB, co-pilot, the mics are on. Master pilot's panel is on, and that's good enough for me, folks. And let's just see what this says here. Oh, the door is unlocked. So I always do that. Let's just get that door closed. Door is all buttoned up, as you can see. Let's go out and take a peek at what we look like quick. Alright, so as you can see, we're good to go for our taxi. And yeah, I definitely wouldn't taxi between those two planes. I think it's too risky. So, and it looks like Bravo is literally right there, but we'll just play it safe and use the correct taxiway. So without further ado, let's go down here. Parking brake is released. This thing is a beast on taxiing. It's taxiing super fast. Alright, let's see what this is before we enter it. Let's make sure this, so this is Tango. We don't want Tango. Let's come down here really quick. So we don't want Tango. We want to make a left and go down to Bravo. So that was good that we checked that. Alright. This is Bravo here. Boy, this thing really wants to taxi fast today. And you know what? Let's put this thing into beta. I didn't do it, I was planning not to. So what you have to do in order to get the aircraft into beta, we are going to hit the reversers really quick. Now the reversers are done and the switch is going to come up. Now you're going to hear it's going to sound like it's going to essentially taxi faster, but the propellers go to a different pitch, I'm assuming, and they essentially sound like they're doing more damage when in actuality they're not. They actually help us to taxi slower. As you can see, we were taxiing super quick. Still kind of, it picks up quick. So we'll get that out of beta before we take off. Alright, this is runway 02 left. So we're nothing on final either way. Fairbanks traffic, November 350 Kilo Tango is currently now taxiing on Bravo in a King Air 350. We'll be making a left on Alpha for full length taxiway to base of runway 02 left for a northern departure with a turn to the northwest for Fairbanks traffic. Alright, so we did our call out because once again we don't want to assume that no one's here. We clearly saw that last time somebody, well, when I started the flight or this video, I said, oh, there's probably not going to be anybody here, and sure enough, there was somebody here. So there is 2 left. So let's check final. Everything looks good, so we're just going to cross it. Now we should be picking up Alpha here.
I mean, it still, you know, wants to get away from you on the taxi, but it's nothing like taxiing when you're not in beta. So I recommend, if you guys are using this aircraft, this is the Airfoil Labs version rendition of the King Air 350, which I find to be the best. Especially with the new integration of the GTN 750s, which you see them there. You can put 2 of them in your cockpit if you do own the equipment, and it'll work to your advantage for sure. Alright, continue to taxi right along. Let's check our taxi, we're doing good. So I'm super excited to be doing these kind of quirky little flights here. These little tours of airports I normally wouldn't fly into. And trying to figure out why she's bogging down like that. There she goes again. At any rate, she is bogging down. Alright. And I think she does that when we're taxiing at a certain speed. So I just got to keep the taxi speed perhaps right around 20 to 25 knots. Alright, we're going to continue to taxi. Alright. And I believe this taxiway does go full length pretty much. So at Foxtrot, we might as well make it happen. That's all we need. This aircraft is not going to take much runway to get off at any rate. One thing we did forget to do is set the setting bugs. So here's Foxtrot. So let's hold short here real quick and do that last little situation. Alright, parking brake is set. So what I'm essentially talking about, we didn't do our heading bugs. Now we can physically move these. You see that? We can physically move these, or we can just have this little book here do it for us. So essentially, let's get here. Now pay attention to the needles. So the runway length is over, you know, it's 10,000 feet, so that's fine. So essentially, it's asking me now if I'm doing a flaps up or approach. We're doing approach flaps. So then here's our V rotate is at 102. I could move it here. You know, I could zoom in and move each one of these individually. But let's just say I did and hit this set markers. Boom, they move to where they need to go. Field length required is 3,144 feet. And this right here is one reason why we won't be able to fly this aircraft into some of the other fields that we're going to be flying here. We're going to be flying a much raggedier looking aircraft like the Dornier 228 or a Twin Otter. But now that's done, folks. So let's go ahead and look left again. We're getting ready to turn on Foxtrot for immediate entry into the runway. So let's not play any games. Let's get our landing lights on. Now don't forget in the strobes. Now don't forget though, the only thing that we do need to do is get our aircraft out of beta, and we need those props all the way up. So landing lights are on. You can see it's a little bit more illuminated outside on the pavement due to the landing lights being on, as well as the taxi and their recognition. You know what I should do? Let's go out and get a screenshot. Maybe we'll use it for the thumbnail for the video, which I always have to think about that. Alright, parking brake is set. Let's jump out board. Let's jump outside really quick and get a nice little picture. What do you guys think? About right here, it looks good. 1, 2, 3, cheese. All right. There we go. It's a good looking aircraft. We got everything on, lights on, ready to go. All right, man, it's loud out there. That's enough of that. All right, parking brake. Parking brake. Parking brake is erased. I don't know. I can't talk today. Maybe I should just talk to you guys in the other language that I know, which is Espanol. Just kidding. No vamos a hablar en español hoy. Mañana, tal vez, pero hoy no. All right. Let's make our turn onto the runway, and then we'll have to stop one more time because we need to get it out of beta and get the props up to where they need to be. All right, I'm satisfied there. Parking brake set again for another hot second. So, and our runway heading's looking pretty good. Let's just square that up slightly. So let's bring it over maybe 2 clicks. 2 more clicks. Pretty good. All right, pretty close to where I want to be. One more. There we are. So now let's get this thing out of beta. You're going to hear the props calm down a little bit. All right, and let's go over to the first officer side and make sure we put the condition levers and prop high RPM. They're all the way up. All right, folks, let us go flying here. Now let's get a little bit better of a view for takeoff. About like right here. Parking brake release. Power is set. I watched that torque, man. A couple times I've been taking this thing off red line and everything. So I'm back on the power slightly. Over 80 knots, check. V1 and rotate. I'm telling you, this thing doesn't take any time. Off the deck, nice and smooth. Positive rate. Gear is coming up. Let's fly runway heading here. We won't make any turns until, of course, we get over the runway, and we'll just hand fly her here for a second. All right. Gonna go ahead and trim her down slightly. She wants to climb. Flaps are coming up. All right, folks. And we'll just have some fun and hand fly her up. Still hand flying her. And we're keeping our heading there, as you can see. Little deviation there. All right, let's go ahead and make a nice little smooth turn here. Nice little smooth turn to the northwest. Some more altitude there. Now if we look on course here, we're almost still making our turn, so we got to keep that turn going. Continuing our climb. Let's double check. Gear is definitely up. Flaps are up. Continuing that turn there. All right, we can kind of straighten up now. There we are. Now we'll kind of stay straight here for a second. All right, just hold that there. Let's sync up our heading. Okay, we're gonna get the yaw damper autopilot. Let's go heading. Let's go altitude select, and we'll do IS8 climb for right now.
All right. We'll go ahead and extinguish that. Continue our climb. Let's check our map now from our turn. Now you guys can see we're heading direct to the line. So we made a nice little manual turn as we flew it manually. And now we're heading for that intercept. So now essentially what I'll do is I'll let it get a little closer and then I'll just have it go direct. And we'll switch over to the navigation portion of it. So actually we should slide this situation over like this. And make sure it comes back to that position, otherwise I'll fix it. There we go. So now you can really see where we're at. Let's go ahead and hone in on it. I've got us on a nice intercept course, and of course we are climbing. We're at 6,900. We've got about 1,500 climb on the vertical speed indicator here. Sometimes you'll hear me refer to it as the attitude indicator, which is really not. It's the vertical speed indicator. Again, shame on me for bad verbiage. I'll do push-ups later. Now that we are airborne, one thing that we can most certainly do is bring our props here down for a climb. Ooh. You guys hear that? That is some nasty weather, and I knew that's going to happen here in Alaska. Let's bring stuff back here for a climb. Still watching my engine here. And this is why it's going to be interesting flying here in Alaska. Definitely a bumpy ride. A lot of low and high pressure areas, hot and cold, temperature changes. But it's a must. These folks need to get their supplies or they will not make it. What we got here? Autopilot trim fail. Okay. Trim looks like it's still working, but that chop gave us some. Let's see if we can extinguish that message. That's going to stay up there. So the trim is still working, otherwise we wouldn't be doing as well as we are. Alright, we're almost at 10,000 feet. As you can see, the aircraft is still able to maintain the speed that we set it at. The IAS climb, which is almost, it's about 176 indicated, or 167 I should say right here, indicated. And so we're doing good. We're going up to 18,000 feet. If the climb becomes a problem, I'll take it over manually and we'll put it into vertical speed mode. Now we are above 10,000 feet, so we can come here and get our landing lights off. And the nav will stay on, beacon and strobe will stay on, and let's sync our props. Alright folks, let's go ahead and get ready to go direct here. So now essentially we're going to come over here, we're going to tap this, and we're going to say activate direct to Minko, and then essentially we have to come down here. And of course we have to put it in the nav mode. Now the aircraft is going to bank left, as you see, and then right, so that it can get on course. And what you can also observe as well here in the HSI is that the aircraft is here. Once this little broken line matches up with the rest of the arrow, the base and the head, then we're on course according to the GPS. So you can also follow that into when you're using the nav radios or a VOR. Definitely get some nasty weather here in Alaska, that's for sure. Definitely gonna have to make sure our icing situation is up to par for this flight. Let's see, ice prop, let's get all this on here. Let's get this up to normal. Let's get the prop up to manual. Single stall warn, I think we're good there. Let's get that, let's get ahead of that in this weather. Alright, as you can see, the climb is a little shaky here just because of the turbulent weather.
Hopefully we get above these clouds and we'll be doing much better. We are still kind of skimming into the clouds. We want to skim above the clouds. All the engine gauges look good. Nothing is in the red. So that's a good thing. Bring these props back a little bit and I can throw some more power in. Alright, let's come here. I'm going to throw in more power in now that we can kind of use our torque. But you still be limited by the prop, so we still got to be careful on the turbine. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it about right there, because there's not many places for any emergency situations if we get engine problems, and there's obviously no ATC. Okay, so everything's in the green, maximized. I'm so glad that we got above that turbulence. And as you can see here, we've got Minto fixed here in 1.6 nautical miles. Let's go ahead and check that out on the GPS. Okay, here we are on the GPS, folks, intercepting Minto, and then we go into that Victor 488 airway, which has several different waypoints on it, such as Minto, and then here's all the points on the airway: Gali, Reba, Satu, Tal, Nelte, Chok, Sabeb, Fekfo, Kuzi, and Gal, and Vince, and then exiting Edmond, and then we'll be direct Unalakleet. So we're going to be doing a lot of planning here because, again, this is dangerous territory to be flying in. I have never flown here. I've never done this route. I'm only relying on my navigational skills and the skills that I have to fly this aircraft for us to try to do this. Now, to be honest, you know, we won't probably even be flying this high. When we go to these other locations, we're really going to be doing a lot of hand flying and really using the heading bug, and because we're going to need to basically stay VFR for the other fields. They're not even, these fields aren't even, they don't even have paved runways. They're going to be gravel. So we got to fly an aircraft that has the ability to land on gravel and to land on short fields and take off on short runways. And max capacity weight, because in these situations where these folks need goods, supplies, some of them have to get transported just to go to the doctor, the dentist, or other essential items that they need to travel for. These planes have to be maximized for supplying the cargo and the passengers. So in some cases, what I've even learned about through reading, that even law enforcement sometimes comes on these aircraft to come get somebody, because some of these small towns only have a town, it's not law enforcement, but they have like a, you know, kind of like a town person that kind of takes care of the enforcement of things, but it's not law enforcement, so they even have to fly law enforcement in there if they can't get there any other type of way. So it's a pretty unique area. I lived in Alaska for 10 years. My parents' house, obviously, I was born there and then to age 10. But I've never been to these small rural towns at all in my life. We pretty much stayed in the city, thank goodness. I'm not really, well, back then I wasn't your rural type guy, but now I can see myself living on a ranch somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. But anyway, cruising right along. Air is smoother, thank goodness. And we are at our cruising altitude here, 18,000 feet. So now we can also put our altimeter to our standard heading of 29902. And now it's just going to dip down to catch that altitude. We'll use that advantage to speed up here, as you see. And we're going to check our engine performance and all that good stuff. Look at the health report and determine if we can throw some more stuff in. I think I'm able to bring this back slightly more to cruise now. And a little bit more power for a little bit more speedy en route. Everything's kind of on the borderline, and that's where we'll stay. We're increasing speed there, so that's a good thing. Let's
far as power thrown in and adjustment on the torque and all that stuff, I think we're pretty good. We can even come down to maybe like 1600s on the props. Let's do that. So we're going to monitor this. We're going to bring that down to about 1600 on the props. Here we go. Speed is still continuing to climb. And we're still limited by our torque. So that's exactly where we're going to stay. Now, one thing I also failed to do, folks, which is a huge shame on me. I didn't even put our transponder on because there was no ATC, so whatever, but I should still have it on. We'll keep it in standby. We are flying IFR, so now we'll just go into altitude reporting. So now our transponder is on, which we should have had that on, so we'll do some push-ups. Alright, so we are cruising at 18,000 feet. I don't know why that went to 29990, but nonetheless, that's going to be corrected. Let's go ahead and take a look at our en route information. Well, actually, yeah. Let's just stay here. 40 to Reba. So essentially, once we get here, I think I'm going to have us right at about 5,400 feet. It's going to be my plan to be here. And essentially what's going to happen is, here, we'll just use this side now. We won't mess with this side. This is kind of our monitoring route here. So essentially what's going to happen, we're going to stay pretty much out of the mountain systems. Again, like I said, our minimum safe altitude really, only thing to worry about is that 5,400 mark. Our biggest, and we're almost coming right through a pass, and this lower ends of the mountain system here are really only like 2,400 feet, 3,000 even, and the higher port is 54. But so that we can stay safe, what we're going to do is we're going to stay, you know, at least 54 here. As we come out of the mountain, I'll make a determination of how we start our descent. You can see that Unalakleet's probably more than likely going to be right around sea level here. So we'll come down, and depending on how this looks, if we can come on this runway, we can just simply almost join in the base a trajectory for a left to final if this is the runway, and same thing for here. But let's go ahead and do our planning now so that we're not even second guessing ourselves. So let's go ahead and look and see what runways are available. Let's see, let's go back here, information. I don't even think airport, climb, top, takeoff minimums, climb, descent table. Okay, let's take a look at this actually climb, descent table and see what we're looking at here. So this is vertical path at ground speed. Knots. Alright, I don't think we'll need this. What I do want to see is the approaches. So this is a southern runway. Alright, alternate missed approach fix North River. Where is the primary missed approach? One minute holding pattern. Okay, circling. So we got a Herald lighting system for runway 15 and 13.
Alright, let's go back and see the other. And the rest of it's just the RNAV GPS-A or RNAV GPS-33. So, this is pretty interesting. So now, let's come back up here for a second and take in the view, check our speed. We're doing well here. Everything is right where it needs to be. Nothing is redlined, so that's good. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to check the weather now for Unalakleet so that we can start planning. Again, X-Plane doesn't model seasons, but obviously how the lighting works based off of location geographically of Alaska. It gets the minimal light during the winter and an excessive amount of light during the summer. So again, the wind direction here is out of the south, so we're definitely going to be taking runway 15. That's only a localizer approach. Altimeter is 2961. So now let's do some little work here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to basically come into the approach. We're saying we want localizer 15. And where do we want that from? Well, let's show the waypoints first of all. So I believe what we're going to do is make a trajectory this way, and we're going to make a right pattern entry into the airport just because it's going to come over the water. I think that's the safest thing to do instead of coming over this terrain. I still haven't made my mind up on that yet. So that's that approach. Let's look at the field. Oops, that's the wrong field there. Alright, so now we're going to look at the airport information here. Alright, runway condition not monitored. Visual inspection prior to landing. So it's a right traffic pattern, so I was correct. So we're going to come across the water, and it's the safest thing to do. We're going to basically come this way over the field, and I might just literally fly as close as possible to it or parallel it so I can look at the condition of the runway. And we will come, make a right downwind, right base turn, and right on in the runway. So we'll come across this way, and it's a right pattern. See here, right traffic pattern for runway 15. So that's what we'll do. Yeah. So this is interesting. Definitely interesting here. So we're kind of getting our plan together. So if we come back over here, and now we can start making our concessions for exactly what we're going to do. So since we're doing that, we really get a lot to play with. So I'm assuming, yeah, we'll go to 6,000 or so over the mountains as soon as we can start descending. I'll get us down to the descent. Now let's look at the waypoints for the descent. Okay. Swing this back out to full. So that's not bad. So as we're coming down the mountains, once I make a decision that everything's low enough, we can get over the water and bring it right to 3,000. Feet, so that if we want to go as far out as steps, we need to be there. Otherwise, we need to get ourselves down to 1,700 here in order to do that. And again, this is just localizer only. There's no glide slope. As you can see, it doesn't say ILS. When it says ILS, that's indicating that it's at least Cat 1, so there's Cat 1, 2, and 3 landings, but it's at least Cat 1 ILS, and that means that
you have vertical orientation as well as lateral orientation to the runway, meaning lateral being the localizer to keep the plane straight to the runway, and then the vertical orientation is the slope as you're coming down, so that you have that nice little smooth descent into the runway. Of course, at the right speed, you got to do a lot more than just setting the autopilot up. But essentially, we don't have that, so we have localizer. So we've got some lateral assistance. Nothing vertical, so that'll all be managed by me and be visual. Touchdown elevation. There's the missed approach. Climbing right turn to 3000 to the Unalakleet VOR. Touchdown elevation is 27, so like I told you guys, it's pretty much a sea level airport because it's right on the water. Now we do need to put this 111.3 in. Okay, that is our frequency, as you can see here, that we need to even get that lateral assistance of the localizer for the aircraft. Now, once we get on the field, we are going to, let's see, oh yeah, that's right, I don't think we get a runway on here. I don't think it doesn't have any airport info, so we'll just leave it on the approach here, 15, and let's go ahead and even load that into our flight plan at this point. We won't activate it, but we'll load it. So we'll come here, we'll load a procedure, we'll load an approach, and we're going to do localizer 15. Let's see if it's got a transition, THEPS, Junior. You know, we'll put THEPS in there. And we're not going to fly course reversal. Essentially what that means is that if we are not at the 3,000 feet that they want there, you do a procedure turn there until you get there, then you come in. We're not going to do that. If we do, we'll do it manually ourselves. So we're just going to load it, we're not going to activate it. So now essentially, let's go all the way back up and review everything. So we are direct SATU right now. And then everything below here is where the approach is at. We know at FEPS we need 15, drag at 1,700 feet. Y'all know, Hegan, so on and so forth. So that's what we're doing. Again, it's localizer approach, but we know 3,000 and 1,700, 1,900. We'll look at the approach chart again in the future. As we get closer, we'll figure that out. And the terminal area is super small. If we come in on runway 15, there is no taxi way, so it'll be a straight back taxi. So let's look at what we have on this here, just to show you that. So we're going to come down and around, like we said, downwind base, come on in, and we're just going to cruise the whole entire length of the runway to get down here to the terminal area. And then from here, we're going to leave the plane here, and we're going to switch planes for the next flight. Whether we do that today or another day, that's going to be the idea. And we'll jump into, I haven't decided if I'm going to fly the Twin Otter or the, I probably will fly the Dornier Do 228 because that plane is really good for short field landings and uneven terrain, gravel runways, things of that nature. So we're direct tall. So, and also one thing too, if we look at, we're at 18,000 feet. I'll get the altimeter at Unalakleet. So let's look at our mileage. So essentially, once we get here, maybe once we get to Vince, we'll start a nice slow descent. That gives us about 70 miles to drop 12,000 feet. More than enough. Again, we won't have any terrain. So We got vents in a little while. Now we can cruise, folks. Alright, I'm just trying to make sure that we essentially are not missing anything. I don't think we are. And if we are, we'll figure it out once we get there. Or get closer, I should say. Alright, so making our nice little turn. We're gonna cruise for a little while here. So let's see. It might be time to step into the back cabin. Let's see how many miles we got to cruise. Alright, we've got roughly, we'll start our cruise at 18 here. So we're gonna be cruising 1850. That's going to be 68, 79, 87. You know, so we still got some ways to go. Another 100 nautical miles to go. Once we get here, this is our prime time to start descending here to get down to 16,000. That's not going to take long to do that. So no worries there. One thing that we can do is we're going to put that approach in here as well and get that loaded up, so when we want to activate it, there'll be no problem there. So we're going to load a procedure again. We're just doing the same thing we did on the other side. Localizer 15. We're not going to do vectors. We're saying it's from THEPS. We're not going to fly course reversal, and you're just going to load that approach. So now the same thing, it's in there. And again, once we get close to vents, we'll start our descent down to 6,000 feet. And then we'll activate approaches so that we get visual representation of what we're doing. So we can come back over here and keep this on the map, of course. And we'll leave that as such. Put that guy there. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and cruise. I'm going to go back to the passenger cabin and check things out. You guys stay here, check it out with some music. I'll jump back up. Don't try this at home either. Don't try this at home. And then when we're ready to start making some stuff happen, I'll jump back up here with you guys. And so, you know what? I'm going to leave you guys in charge. I'm going to put you on the first officer side. So let's get you a nice little scenic view here. You don't have all the cool features over here, but you do have essentials over here on this side, like speed and the horizon and all that good stuff. So we're going to keep you guys right over here, that you guys are helping me out. And I will see you guys when we get ready to start descending and all that stuff. So for now, enjoy the flight and your music, and you're in charge. All right, you guys most certainly caught me back here in the cabin chilling. Look at that sunrise, baby, over those clouds. So nice. But anyway, it's time to get back in and get to business. Thank you guys for holding down the cockpit while I was back here malingering, chatting it up with the passengers, talking about their lives and getting to know what cargo they brought on board this aircraft. But it's time to get back to business. None of that matters if I don't get us down safely. So back up we go. Boom. There we are. back in the cockpit, ready for business. As you can see here, we are still doing good. We haven't met the point yet where we want to start descending, but we are slowly but surely approaching that, so we can go ahead and get the altitude alerter actually set up for 6,000. So there you go. And we'll continue to cruise along here. I don't think we need to review the actual arrival or anything like that. However, I do think we need to cover what the weather's doing again, just to be on the safe side. So let me go back up to my trusty dusty second screen here. Okay, the wind is pretty much doing the same thing, just to show you guys here. Still doing the same thing. Altimeter is 2962. Let me write that down. 2962 on that old altimeter. And visibility is looking good. Temperature is cold as I don't know what, -19. If you want to know what that is in Fahrenheit, it's a -7 degrees Fahrenheit. That is cold, too cold for me. Winds are pretty good at 5 knots, so we can land full flaps, of course. And it's VFR, so it's telling me there's clouds, scattered clouds above 11,000. So below 11,000, it should be pretty copacetic. Got 10 miles of visibility. I like that. I can work with that. We should work with that. All right, so that's out of there. Back to reality. All the engines are doing good. Well, looks like weather just updated. Looks like the update still says there's clouds at this level, which is okay. All right, so we are doing good. Let me move this down a little bit. So right now we're direct koozie. And now we're direct gal. And we've only got 19 nautical miles to gal. You can come down here and see that a little bit better. Now it's 18 nautical miles and some change. And then we get into where we should be. So now let's bring that back so the aircraft can follow where it needs to be. So here's Vince. Here's essentially where we can start our descent. Or actually, we'll start our descent. We'll just probably start our descent now. Here it's saying top of descent here. But there's no way we're going to start descending here and then make it to this point. I already know what the MSA is over here, and we have a nice little airway here. And even on some charts, you can go and take a look at what the airway minimums are in that area, to know exactly how high you should be and how high you shouldn't be. So we feel pretty confident in our plan, so we're just going to execute. That's what we do. All right, let me go up top really quick and just check something out. I just want to show you something. 6,000 is more than enough. We come in here and take a look at the MSA, or the minimum safe altitude, in-rate altitude here. You see that? It's 5,500. See? It's right there, folks. So knowing how to read these charts can save a life. In this case, ours, virtually anyway. So thank you for all my teachers for teaching me how to read. And that's going to pay us dividends. Even here, we're good at 5,500 feet. As you can see here, this is the GAL VOR, which we are approaching here. I didn't want to do that. So that's the GAL VOR that we're approaching there. So you can see we are basically cleared to start our descent down to 6,000. So here we go. Oh, look at that. Just updated. Big old wall of clouds there. Okay, no worries. We're going under them anyway, because that's what we do. All right, folks. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to hit this altitude select, vertical speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And maybe we'll go a little bit up on that. We don't need to be such an egregious descent. Alright, we're pulling our speed back. We are now descending. So let's go ahead and correct that altimeter now. Good thing I wrote it down, 2962. Because we are below 18,000 feet. 2962, bada bing, bada boom. Doing good on the speed. I think we could maybe be a little bit more aggressive. All right. All right, let's just make sure our icing stuff is still good to go. Prop, it's auto. Fuel vent, single surface. Surface, de-ice, single, it's off. Perhaps we should do some brake de-icing as well. And we're just let's throw everything up. There we go. Let's literally get everything working, man, because it is cold down there. I turned it into a Jamaican. Everything not Irie. Cold, man. Made myself laugh again. I frequently do that. I'm okay with nerd status. Doesn't do me any harm. All right. There we go. All the way down. All right. See, our prop sync is on. I'm just looking at our engines here. Left is definitely on a different program than the right here as far as the torque is concerned. You see that? Still within good variance ranges, but it's okay. All right, at 14 already. Let's see here. We still got quite a ways, so I'm gonna let's see here, and we'll monitor it. I'm thinking that's gonna take us a long time, but we'll see where we're at once we get to vents, because then essentially we only have 54 miles to go. So we'll keep our descent here for now. Even if we get down to 6,000, that's okay. That's the minimum safe altitude on that airway, so we are okay. It's probably about to get bumpy, I'm sorry. Nothing I can do about it. In we go, folks, to the unknown mist of the cloud. Okay, we don't have any new advisements. Now look at that. That must be some sleety rain. That's some nasty stuff right there. Let's make sure we got our windshield de-icing on for real. Normal, pedoed, everything is good here. We need everything that says de-ice to be on at this point. I think we're good. I think we are good. Because that would definitely, at these temperatures, woo! Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, Alaska up here has got some nasty, nasty weather. As you can see. Now, we are not able to fly IFR again to these other fields, so this is literally going to be the only flight in northern Alaska that we're able to do IFR.
don't need our windshield wipers on yet. We're still all instrument. Not until we get a little lower, then we'll clean the windshield up if need be. So don't worry about all that precipitation now. Just know that it is nasty out there. Thank goodness we're in here nice and warm, boy. I know about the cold. Still doing good. We don't have that much to go, so let's come off of such an aggressive descent. I mean, essentially, we don't even need that. Looks like there's a little break coming right here, or that's a darker cloud, not quite sure. There we go. Just gonna keep our descent very easy. I mean, we've got quite the distance to go, so we're okay there. Can even throw some more power in now. Telling you, this is some serious stuff here. Seeing if we can get a break anywhere here. Alright, still doing good on speed. Let me see if we have any weather information down here. Display, da-da-da, nav data. Okay, here we go. Here's the weather mode here. I don't really mess too much with the weather mode sometimes in X-Plane because it takes a lot of weather for it to even show up. So we'll turn the weather mode on. Tilt should be to auto. Okay. Tilt is auto. Da 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 da. Still have no accurate visual of the ground, of course. 1,000 to go on our descent. Alright, let's come on over here to this GPS. I am ultimately curious to see if there is any weather feature on here. So let's see, utilities, da-da-da. Okay, 1,000 to go. Traffic, terrain. There is no weather feature on here, which would be nice if there was. Again, that's why I don't mess with it. But as you can see, we're getting super close to where we need to be. So from Edmonton, we're gonna vary our heading just slightly. Again, I might just even come over the runway. I might even just let them know I'm gonna pass over it so that we can kind of see it and get that warm fuzzy before we come downwind. Hopefully we can see it.
hoping. And we are direct to our last waypoint, but it's still quite a ways away. And as you can see here, they wanted us to actually be at 6,700 at Edmond, but we're making our own destiny here. And actually, we can actually just do that. So all you gotta do is hit the Alt button. This will change. It's gonna hold right there. So let's push this button in so I can make it 6,700 basically, or 600 where we're at. So we'll stay here for now. We'll take the recommendation, because we can always get a nice aggressive descent for the last 3,000. So we will stay here. Now I'm hoping as we get closer, these clouds dissipate, because it did say that at the airfield there was only some scattered or broken clouds at 11,000. If it stays like this, that's going to be nasty. Although we get a localizer, so we will just go down to our minimum. Decision height is 500. Let's look and see what the decision height is for this approach. Charts. Approach. Oh, let me check the speed real quick. Make sure we are maximizing speed here. Which we're doing pretty good on the speed here. Alright, anyway, back to business. Alright, so normally we do radio altimeter height over the runway, and that'll just say, hey, when you're 200 feet above the runway, that's your last decision that you're going to make. Touchdown elevation is 27, so that essentially would be 227 feet if we're doing the radial altimeter. However, I think we're going to make our decision height. We'll leave it right at 500. That's what we'll try to make our decision. Determine whether we're going to land or recircle and do it again. See, we're actually picking up altitude. I don't even know how that switched off. That's right. Alright, versus or vertical speed. There we go. So that ought to fix that. Still in these clouds. No worries there. So once we get on our final everything, we're actually gonna keep this chart up. And actually, once we get close enough, it doesn't matter anyway, since we'll have it programmed in. Once we get past Edmonton, then we're gonna take everything and we'll just activate the approaches. Back on the flight plan. Alright, let's come down here. We are below 10,000. We should have put our landing lights on, but we didn't. I'm actually not looking forward to this landing. Just gonna keep that yoke off, which we've been doing the whole flight. The way we're having to do a lot of toggling with buttons down there. So we'll go ahead and type in the next altitude of 3,000, which is most certainly not where we're going to be now, but that's the next one coming up. Now let's make sure this thing is on altitude hold and arm, which it is. Okay. Make sure this thing doesn't randomly start doing what it did last time. Alright, we are about within 50 nautical miles of the field, or so. 57 or 56 nautical miles to be exact. Or I'm sorry, that's more like 52. 53. As you can see here, that's where it kind of gets on that approach chart. Once we get to Edmond, I'll for sure activate it on this. Actually, I can just... I'll do it here in a minute. I'll activate it on here so that we have the graphical representation of where we need to be making our turns and stuff at for a visual aid. And once we square up our heading, which I'll do now, we'll go ahead and switch over the course indicator, bearing indicator, what we need. There we go. Now you can see the course is all good to go. So when I switch, or the heading, when I switch off to the heading, then that won't be a problem. So let's come over here and calculate what that heading is going to be anyway. So here's Edmond. There's the field. There's the runway we're coming in on. Obviously, you can automatically see where we need to go to be at 3,000. Now, if I get lower, 1,900, we're just going to come in here and make our, if we can see, make our evolutions and go in there that way. So from here, let me decide what heading I want to go on. Right now we're on track 231, then it gives us a little bit of a right turn by 2 degrees to 233. So essentially from here, I'll put an offset, we're on 231, I'll give us a 10-degree variance. From here to there, over 20 miles will give us a good little distance. So we'll do a 10-degree variance just off of that. So we'll essentially make concessions to be at heading 221. So if we look here, we'll come right about here. So we have about 10 clicks. Alright. Now we're right at about 220 run right there. That's going to be the variance that we use. And then once we come downwind of the runway, or once we pass it on the opposite end of the base leg, or the opposite end of the field, then we'll make our right downwind and do what we need to do. Again, I'm hoping that this goes away. I'm not so concerned about getting on the approach. We can do that. I'm just considered, can we see the field? Because look at this. We're still basically cloud surfing here on different levels of clouds, which is crazy. All right, so we got 8.5 nautical miles to Edmonton. So over here, Let's go ahead and go back and flight plan. We're going to hit this approach. And we are going to activate the approach now. See right at Phelps is where we get the ILS for the localizer, so I'm definitely going to bring it all the way out there. And we can go ahead and make that deviation now. Let's go ahead and get on heading mode. So now we're going to make our deviation 10 degrees. Since we've made that deviation, we can now come down here and get it into the VOR lock or VOR 1 mode. Alright, there's the localizer 1. Then of course it's not going to match up yet because we have to go back over here and switch this guy. Got the frequency of 111.3 already in. Now this will activate once I hit the approach button. So we have it on localizer 1, which is what we want. Let's just cycle through that button and see what it gives us. Localizer 1, VOR 2, and then the last click will be back to FMS, I'm assuming. Yep, FMS. Okay, so I was just double checking. And that's off, which we definitely don't want. Now, that's on. Now, the other little thing that we need to do is you need to turn the nav on here, or else it won't pick it up. So the nav 1 is on. For sure. We don't need any of this, but we've got the nav 1 on. So the nav 1 is essentially what we're going to be using to get that localizer. Alright, we're on that deviated course. Bring us here, that's going to bring us around. So we're right in this valley right here, so let's go ahead and stay there. Also on this one, let's go ahead and activate the approach as well. Approach, activate approach, and again it's 111.3, the Unalakleet localizer. So now we have our approach activated as well, and we can essentially leave both of these here. I'm even going to make this one come in just a little bit. There's our track. Now, ooh, we can see, folks. Yay. All right. Let's go ahead and start our descent. All right. The descent is started. We already had 3,000 in there. We got the correct altimeter. Let's come back on the speed. Now let's go over to the first officer's side, and let's orientate ourselves. So essentially the runway should be right off of our right. If you're looking here, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, let's try 2 o'clock. So that's 12, that'd be 1, that'd be 2. So it's going to be right on the water. No joy. In fact, that's the water line over there. We'll see once we get parallel and lower, because right now we're still a little high. If we can recognize anything, come back on the power slightly. Going to be turning our prop sync off and getting everything up to where it needs to be. So again, not quite yet parallel, slightly out, but our deviation is working. Going to dump us out right, keeping into this valley, right into the water shoreline. And once we get over the shoreline, we'll go ahead and maybe get, you know, 5 DME from field, and then make our right turn. So if we want to find out what type of turn we need to make, if you look at the course heading for the runway, course heading is 150, so all we need to do is add 180 to that. So 150 and 150 is 300. So if we want to add another 30 to make it 180, it would be 330 is the reverse heading of this. So once we make our turn, we're going to turn heading 330. And then that'll have us pretty much parallel with the runway so that we can do a nice little base turn to Phelps. So once we get about right here, we'll go ahead and do our 330 turn. Alright, we're pretty much parallel. And that's it over there. Not much to look at, of course. There's that water line we were talking about. Glad visibility did improve. I like our speed. So again, once we get here, we'll go ahead and do a 330 turn. Not quite there yet. Landing speed will probably be right around 100 for the VREF. Knots we're only at 5, so again we're going full flaps for the landing. Another way to also judge once you know what the heading is, you just come over here. And if you have your compass orientated this way, you simply just draw a line straight across. And you'll pretty much get it. And you'll know over here if there's an odd number right across from it, it should be the exact same odd number since the spacing is different. They put a number basically every 30 degrees, so 150, 60, 70, 80, so on and so forth. And 180 is directly due south, so there's some little tricks you can teach yourself so that you can get on course, especially if you're navigating on your own. Alright, and there looks to be field right there. So we'll definitely take this nice and easy and do everything to be cautious. Unalakleet traffic November 350 Kilo Tango will be turning downwind for runway 15 for full stop here in about the next 3 minutes for Unalakleet traffic. Alright, it's almost going to be time for that wonderful turn here. I think there's a way I'll be able to just make my view the way it should be.
slightly a little more, and then we'll get our turn going about right here, because we want to have enough distance to make good solid 90-degree turns almost, so that we can get the ILS at least under 30-degree angle of attack to enter the ILS. Otherwise, aircraft is not going to recognize it. You can hear the beeping noise, which means now this is in the distance of the localizer. You hear that do-do-do-do-do. So now it is picking up the localizer, which is a good thing. And so this bat here will be our reference. So it's telling us we're left of the field, of course, because we're behind it as far as the right end of the runway and all that good stuff. All right, folks, I think we can go ahead and start our turn to 330. All right, see, I got the heading down here, and I can see it here, so this is a much better, actually, situation. So now we're going to turn us on over to 330. When it does that, but it's part of the problem, part of being a simmer. User interface. Alright, so that should have us turned good. Our speed is good, nice and slow. So now you can see our aircraft. Here's the leading edge. We pretty much made a nice little turn here. So now essentially we want to drop this view like this, so that I can come up a little high and make my right turn to come here to hit this at 30 degrees. And as you can see here, I didn't see that before, but it says 330, so that's the opposite direction with the arrow pointing the other way, which makes a big difference. And if you were to do a procedure turn here, because you're not at the right altitude of 3,000 feet, then this is where you would do that procedure turn, and it tells you that it'll be a right turn. So you would essentially catch it, make a right turn from the Phelps fix back around, and these should be 1 minute legs. So we're doing good. At this point, we should also be able to come over here and get a visual on that field. Let's see. We're not quite parallel with it just yet. It should still be about our 2 o'clock position, which this little lovely thing keeps being right in the way. And again, they claim 10 miles of visibility, but I would beg to differ. Still can't see much. All right, here in a second, once we get on to, actually, we'll just go ahead and do it now. Let's see here what we got. What is this saying? Activate GPS missed approach. Missed approach, waypoint reached, remain suspended. This remains suspended, and we just want this for our visual representation now. Okay, there's the field. So we'll be coming on this runway. And there you see the ramp area down there. So not much to look at, but let's orientate ourselves to these little rivers, lakes here, so we know that it's kind of at the base of this mountain here. Right next to that is the tip of the runway, and we're just going to coast her all the way in to the ramp area. That looks like the main house down there, the main structure. So perhaps that's where we need to park. If we can find a taxiway there, we will. They'll understand if we park at the other place, though, because we haven't been here before. All right. Let's see here how we're doing. Still got a nice heading of 330. We got a good visual of the field. Like I said, we're going to come up and then make our turn. So to intercept, that's on a 150 heading. Once we get up to intercept that, we will, let's see, be 150. But we'll be coming from this direction. So we're going to be making a right turn. So we'll probably make our between 90 here. So maybe here. Maybe right here. Maybe right at 100 degrees is we'll make our turn so that we can intercept this in less than 30 degrees, because you essentially want to make sure this is less than 30 degrees. So this is 120 to 150 is 30. So somewhere in here we got to hit it. So it's less than 30 degrees of angle of attack. So essentially we'll be 210 or more for the turn so that we can hit that. So we'll probably make our heading, 220, or I'm sorry, 125 or 130. 125 or 130. Still cruising along. VATS is what we want. All right. And then of course here we should be 1,140 feet. So let's go ahead and set that up. There we go. So we'll just make it 1,200. So a little bit more to go till depths. Not much though. All right, I'm getting my approach on the Navi graph as well. Actually, to start the glide slope at drag, it's at 1,700 feet. So let's change that to 1,700 feet. Drag. All right, almost the depths. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. All right, and we can essentially even enter yeah, we won't do that. So again, we're doing this, but we're pretty much using this visually. And I think we can go ahead and start our descent to drudge now, because we're just going to make our turn and intercept that localizer. So let's go ahead and do vertical speed. All right, let's go ahead and make our turn now. See how that does for us visually. Make our turn about 130 or so. Alright, now we need to hit the approach button. Alright, we've got approach locked in. So if you can see the field, it's the base of the runways right there. I can see the lights. And of course, visual is not playing nice with us. But nonetheless, we see where we have to go. Alright, so we should be getting the localizer right here, and still it's telling us to be, doesn't even have the dryage on here, which I don't know why. Which is another waypoint. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It does have it. It's right here. So we should essentially be hitting it here any minute before dryage at the 1700 feet. Make sure we're not missing any buttons on here. Approach is the only one. There is no localizer. This will be my first actual localizer approach in this aircraft. Alright, so not quite there yet. So as soon as we come in here, we should pick it up once we get about right to this point, and it should pull us straight. If not, we'll just put ourselves to heading 150 and do whatever we need to do, because we're at a good altitude over these mountains, of course. And we're as slow as we need to be. So essentially, I still don't see the aircraft turning. So let's go ahead and make our turn to 150 anyway. Okay, I do see it moving. Now it does have us, so that's good. Alright. Going flaps down. Alright. Landing gear down. And now we can just pretty much take it visual, folks. And it does look like there is even a glide slope, or that's amazing. Alright. So landing gear is down. Props are to full. Prop sync is off. Landing gear is down, 3 green. Alright, flaps are in approach. I'm always paired in by the landing gear. Landing lights are on. Alright. Last stage of flaps. And autopilot's coming off. Yaw damper off. Alright, the aircraft is mine. Flaps are to full. I see 1 red, 1 white, so we're on a good approach here. Not the best, hugest, advantageous visual day, but yet enough for us to be on a nice little approach here into the Unalakleet area.
Nose is itchy. It's always something on approach. Kids coming in, cat meowing. Nose itchy this time. Alright. We'll bring the power back here in a minute. I think we are slightly above how fast I want to be. But I'm liking the approach. Alright, I'm going to plan on potentially using the reversers if need be, but it's plenty of much of a long runway. Alright, there we go. Just keep her steady. Keeping that speed right where we need to be. Definitely above stall. Little bounce, little rough. All right.
Unable to find view ID 9.
Let's go reverse there for a second.
Unable to
Reverse
find
free.
view ID 9.
60 knots, wheel brakes. I'm over here pushing all the buttons on my joystick, trying to get this thing under. Not the best landing, but acceptable. Looks like it was -3. I kind of just tank dropped it at the end, but still acceptable. Now if we can find this taxiway over here, we need to go off to the left of the field. So let's come off over here onto this next runway, if you will. So we're going to taxi down to this warehouse down here. Alright. Cleaning up the aircraft, and we'll need to get it in beta here in a second. Alright, I just put it into beta so we can slow down on that taxi. Didn't do any call outs. There was no pilots that have availed themselves at all, so alright, let's just stop here for a second and get the landing lights off and the strobe, and welcome into Unalakleet, folks. Super easy taxi. So we made it. Kind of take dropped it on the I mean, it could have been smoother, but not the worst. You know, it's an acceptable range. You know, every landing you have is not going to be perfect, even though that's what we strive for. A greased, buttered landing. I really don't have any excuse for tanking it like that either. The winds were really good. Everything kind of was okay. It's just one of those things. Alright. Definitely going to turn our transponder off, even though there is no ATC here. And of course, we can go ahead and get those condition levers down, or the prop levers. I'm always calling them condition levers. And we can go take a look at our replay, folks. Alright, so not a bad landing. We are here at the gate. So let's, or the, I should say the warehouse. The hangar, if you will. So let's go ahead and get our engines down into low idle position. Let them cool down for a second. Bring our feathers back. Alright, as well, let's get everything off that we should have gotten off before. Turn our torpedoes off right now. And let's see, we can even get our recognition off. We'll leave our beacon on for a second. Let's turn the taxi off. And we can turn our ignitions off, of course. We need to actually turn our inverters, well, our generators and inverters off. Leave one on. Let's come over here. We need to turn our systems off. All right, and let's turn this inverter off. And we're gonna go to just regular battery power. And we can shut them down. All right. Come on. This guy doesn't want to come off a low idle. He's like, nope, I don't think so. Let's go over to this side here. There we go. All right. You also want to make sure your bleeds are closed. And everything looks good here. Now we can turn that that beacon light off. And once the propellers get done spinning, we can open the door. That's what we're waiting on. We got stopped on right. Left is still dying down. So let's go ahead and get that battery off. All right. And passengers should be safe to disembark now. Let's go ahead and make sure we can make that happen. So let's go all the way to the back. I believe I've got a little setup here. We are going to open the passenger door. Passenger door is down. And of course, we just need to come click here. Somewhere there's a little click spot where we can open these rusty, dusty doors up. At least I thought there was. Okay, here it is. Mira, pasajeros, hemos llegado aquí a Unalakleet. And you guys can get off. We can also open up the cockpit door in the front. And this flight is complete. I want to say thank you to everyone for joining me on another wonderful flight here in this Beechcraft King Air 350i. Wonderful travels to Unalakleet, Alaska. Unalakleet. And we'll see you guys next time here on Dre Sanchez. Thanks for hanging out.